All right, we're getting warmed up. We've talked about legislation, we've talked about data. We're going to talk even more about data now, because this is the kicker. This is where we need to see some change. So we have a brand new panel. I welcome Daniel de Benedetto, Regional Director, Euronorth for Centric Software, Amanda Thorén, CEO and co-founder of Bencha, and welcome back to the stage, Linda Pimmeshofer, founder of Change Retail. Round of applause.
Sitt ni.
Ska jag stå och sitta?
Just remove. Maybe you should just stand.
Yes.
All of us.
Yeah. That's better.
Is that okay?
Before lunch.
Måste hålla på
This feels.
händerna.
Are we good, Daniel?
Yeah.
Thanks. Screwed up his camera angle. All right. So I wanted to have another session on data and how the use of data can help the fashion brands. We've talked about overproduction, we've talked about sell-through. These are important topics for the industry, but also from a business perspective. Daniel, you represent Centric. You've been at it now for a couple of decades, this company, maybe not you yourself. How do you define the problems when you speak to the fashion industry right now? What kind of challenges do you see?
The good thing is that it's so simple, so it's very, very easy to define, actually. No, it's complex. It's really complex. And I think that somebody else mentioned before that, let's say, the mechanical industry and the regular engineering industry has been so much more familiar with data for such a long time. And I think that this industry, the fashion industry, has been, let's say, cheating too much. It's fast, you need to make quick decisions, but anyway, it takes like 18 months to develop a collection.
Right.
You have time. So part of why it takes 18 months to develop a collection is that it takes so long time to catch up with all that data that you actually that you cheated on before. So you didn't even think of using that data to build up your decisions. And I think that is the big problem. And therefore, we see here the DPP as being the main topic. Everybody's speaking about DPP. And I see in our brands' brains, they ask themselves, how easy can I get that DPP out there? Because that's the most important thing. So I can continue to sell my products with, like you said, high margins, giving a shit about the data. But why?
Right.
And why don't you start at the beginning? Why don't you start to build up the data already when you start to build your collection and your merch plan?
Well, you talk about the concept of data depth when we talked about this before.
Yeah.
What do you mean by the data depth in this context?
I think Anna at Filippa K here talked about how she needed to get together all the organizations, and I think that's a good example. Sustainability on one side, and then the rest of the organization here. But each and every department have their own agenda, and they have their own Excel spreadsheet. And they only focus on putting in that data that they need in their Excel spreadsheet to make their job. And they are angry at everybody else that are not giving them the data. And in between those Excel spreadsheets, there are huge holes of data. And that's the data debt.
Right.
Because the more you continue to develop, the more that gap increases.
Talk briefly about your solution, so give people up to speed about Centric and how you serve the brands with this.
I think we have a few clients in the room here, H&M and Peak Performance and Gant and so forth.
It's cool, you can brag about your client list, that's fine.
Not forgetting anyone. But I think they all started with, let's say, the need of creating data on the product, left-hand side of the purchase order. So when you start to build up your collection, really. And we start at the point where you build up a merch plan. What will we sell in 18 months, which we would like to reduce lead times on, and then create the design and the bill of material and the requests to our suppliers. And now then, of course, connecting that with all the traceability tools, etc. But that whole digital process before you have ordered your container, that hopefully, if you can show a DPP at the end of it, you can offload in the harbor.
I'll get back to that. We're going to go from one established player to a startup. Amanda, you also want to serve the brands in the fashion industry with more data, but from a little bit of a bit different perspective. Maybe we just describe the innovation that Bencha is sitting on right now.
Yes, very fun to be here. And yeah, we are working with the second-hand market and the second-hand field for the fashion industry. So we are a data platform working with collecting and structuring second-hand data from all over the world, primarily Europe, US, and North America. And then we help the brands or retailers to actually find both the strategic way to handle like the life after the first point of sale, but also when they like get into selling secondhand, how to do it in a more efficient and scalable way. So we offer a report platform, we have a re-commerce system, and we have focused on like the pricing part, so making it easy to value each like unique item, which is a huge problem if you want to step into the second-hand market. So that's where we are.
So let me see if I can explain that back. And so just to make sure I understand it, yes. So you kind of scour the market of data. You kind of you go out there and get a bunch of data on how different products are performing and different brands are performing, and then you repackage that and sell it back to the brand, saying this is how your brand is performing, or maybe your competitors as well. Yeah. Is that a fair assessment of what you're delivering in this report?
Perfect. Yeah. You can get a job. If you...
Oh. Good. It's my fallback plan now. How do the brands react when you come to them with this solution?
Yeah, so until now, this data haven't been accessible. So first of all, everyone is like, okay, wow, how does this work? And the next question is, what should we do with this data? And I think that we have a huge responsibility. We were talking about that earlier, about like our responsibility as a tech company to really build solutions and packaging that could be consumable for the whole company, and not just for the IT or for one person at the sustainability department. So that's like very, very important. And I also see that everyone is like searching for the best practice, like how should we do this? Can you show us an example of the best way? And I think it's not that easy. I think we need to see that every like brand has their own like consumers, the consumer behavior patterns, etc., and start digging where they are right now, instead of like just looking, okay, these are doing like this, so we can try to do the same. I think you need to really work with your own data and with your own consumers that you already have, because that should be followed.
I want us all to talk a little bit about going deep into kind of implementing technologies into fashion brands and kind of what the challenges are, and we've heard before testimonies that the brands are really searching for explanations, knowledge, help with structuring this. Linda, maybe you can take the lead on this. What do you think needs to happen inside of fashion brands to be able to work with data suppliers like these?
Yeah, so first it's to understand what they are doing. And if you look at Bencha, it's about the second-hand market, right? So if you want to understand what's out there, which size do you have that you can really bring into your company, but also like data about the quality, because if you see where you are, on the second-hand market and your competitors in price points, you can see oh, we are not that good, right? So really understanding what you can see in the data, you need to understand that. And then, of course, to see who is owning that in the organization. Because in this case, it's the business, it's the sales, marketing, I would say, and the designers to really that make the decision about the material. So it's so many. And that is this hard part with this breaking down the silos, because before we have had this siloed world when everyone has their data. Now we have a data point here, and then we need to identify who has value to come out of the data, and which decision should go from that data, should use that data. But also which system. So in this case, if we combine these two perfect solutions, I love them both, and you have this planning tool that really can help with planning the assortment, to have assortment that fits your customer in different parts of the world, but also the reallocation in the stores and everything. Everything that is doing, that is like helping you to be relevant to the customer. It's a great customer experience we're talking about. And you know that the second-hand market, it's quicker in the trends, right? So if you want to analyze the trends to really be more clever in your planning, that is that data you should use. So it's also which data sources do you need to connect and which systems should use the data. So it is complex, but it's like a puzzle. You just need to understand and put the pieces together and understand that you need to get that feedback loop in and understand where you can get the data, which type of data do you need to have more data? Is it better data out there you can add? And also which different systems should be steered from that data source.
Daniel, it's a puzzle out there. So you arrive at the fashion brand. There's obviously like a sales process. You explain what you do, but then you also implement it. And how much? Can you talk at all about how that process works? How much effort do you put in the implementation and kind of guiding the brand with these new tools?
I think, first of all, to clear on to the first question to Linda, I think that it sits a really, really important topic there. We tend to say, oh, I don't know anything about tech. Business wants a system so they can get access to data, and then they say, oh, I don't know anything about tech. Sorry, but we have started in the wrong direction, or in the wrong angle there. So I think, like you say, you need to understand about the data, who needs that data, who wants to consume it, who has the business, let's say, case built up to start to consume that data, and then take ownership of that as well. Because no IT department will be able to implement your tool. They will be able to put it on the servers. That's right. But if you're going to use it, and if you're going to get use of the data, you need to have the business to support that process. So when I come to customers, they don't say, oh, here's my IT department, speak to them. No, right. It's the business people that we speak to. Because it's them that will consume the data, and they will have the business benefits out of it, and also the possibility to connect to the other stakeholders of the data, removing the data debt between these different Excel spreadsheets, let's say, in favor of having a process that works.
What's the kind of best case scenario for describing what you just said? Like what happens within a fashion brand? What type of roles do they need? What kind of communication do they need between the different departments?
Well, my perfect customer is a customer that is focused on profit. Because at the end of the day, it's the consumer that will buy your product that will make your profit. And if everybody in the organization are united around the profit, then you can start to develop something that will fit the company's own flow. And like you say also, there are best practices out there. Yes, there are a lot of best practices, but what makes you competitive is definitely not the best practice. It's your practice. But you need to figure out yourself how you want to sell it, and we can support them. Our consultants are not coders. They do not code systems or build specific things. They understand the process. They understand how they stick together, and how sustainability needs are driven by plans and how material libraries are built up to support, publishing of DPP or whatever you have, but it's all connected in a way. And you get that process.
I think that's a really strong point, and from my assessment, when I meet a lot of tech companies that want to interact with the fashion industry, there's the technology in itself. I think Staffan was onto this in his keynote as well. It's not really rocket science what we need, but it's the implementation is key. And to implement, you need to have tech suppliers that actually understand the business of running a fashion brand.
Yeah, I think so, and then that is actually quite one. I mean, I used to work with the mechanical industry for many, many years, and you have so many engineers around. They know mathematics, they know technology, they know all these things. So in a way, it's easier for them to assess the technology. But I think also to that point, the process point, when these companies start to evade a bit from the design, because that's only a small part of your profit. It's actually a lot of data that builds up to your profit. Then you can really start to work with something. Then you will start to take ownership of that implementation. And the suppliers need to have people that come from the business, I would say, rather than being techies. Then, of course, there are a lot of tools that are small niche applications that does certain things. That's fine. Go and implement that as it's supposed to work. But then there is a total 100% out of the box of that tool, and you can't steer it. The process you need to manage to be your own competitive practice in a way.
Right. Amanda, I know your product is more new. It's went to market, at least the reporting tool went to market this year. Talk about your interaction with the brands in terms of implementation. How much hand holding do you have to actually do to get this into the brand?
Much, of course, today, because we aren't there yet, as I said from the beginning. If you haven't seen this type of data points and you don't know anything about the actual numbers of the second-hand market, it's very hard to understand what could we get, what could we see. So the first, the starting point is to get the brands to understand and see data, but also an eye-opener, as an example, when we worked with a brand, it was like, okay, we are a smaller brand than our competitors, but we would like to look into how we stand. We have our brand and these three competitors. And when we looked at the data, we saw that they have a huge potential because the consumers actually buys their second-hand products, and they didn't know. And they were like, okay, these brands are so much bigger than us. Yeah, but here's the answer. So hopefully, when you can get the data in place and you can have it consumable for a lot of people in the organization, then you can start working on the management level and also in the sustainability team, in the IT team, in the business, the design, to actually gain from this and to start working or marketing, loyalty. It's so many potential aspects that you can start working with, but you need to see the value to understand how to use it. You need to see the value, but it seems to me that you kind of also need to understand what kind of questions to ask, right? Linda, if you have all these tools and you have all this data and you have this opportunity to kind of assess the market or assess your brand or assess how your products are performing, unless you know how to digest that or kind of asking the right questions seems like a crucial point. Am I right?
Yeah, depending on who you are in the organization and when in this, I like to ask the questions first and which question do we need to answer? What if you have the problems returns, which data points do you need to decrease that? Because we have the problems already, right? We have the new legislation coming. So what data do we need to not do that work afterwards, but doing it in beforehand, as you can enable, and then you only have a reporting tool in the end when you need to, deliver on that. So sometimes I think don't start with technology. Of course, you do it when you come in and speak, because you need to speak about your... But still, you know also the problems you're solving. Sometimes, back to this, how can tech and the business side come closer? I think we need to start with the problem of the industry, and the technology will solve it. But we shouldn't start speaking about the technology. We need to start with the problem.
That's a great point. So all of you, to wrap it up, what's the vision for the next kind of 5 to 10 years? What's the ideal scenario? What do you wish would have happened in the next years? Linda, starting with you.
I want to end, because I will add this together.
Sure. Daniel. Curveball there.
Thank you. Dive in. Well, I see that a lot of things are already happening in what I see in the future. Back in 2013, I worked with AI and big data for a short period of time. We are talking about data in here, but we are not talking about AI, and I think it's a shame, really. What AI can do for you...
I wrote the headline, so I'm going to take that one.
Yeah. No, but I think that if you have control of the data, then you can let AI do a lot of your work, and you can start focusing on the product again. You can remove your thoughts from the 80% of data and 20% of art to actually do art. But if you have something to drive that, create bill of materials. So why are we asking for a DPP when we actually already know it? We can plan for a product that has a bill of material containing sustainable materials, which can be easily reported later. But why don't we let the system do that? And I think that that's where we're going. So a lot of if people can start to adopt data, then in the future, we will have the machines doing a lot of work for us, so we can be more creative and focus on our competitive advantages instead of digitizing in data in Excel spreadsheets.
Right.
That's what I think, and it's not too far away. And then we can see in 5 years. Ask me what's coming in another 5 years.
I'll invite you back. I'll book a few.
Maybe I come as an avatar.
I'll book a few AI sessions before you come on again.
Yeah, thank you.
Amanda, from your perspective, what's your ideal scenario for the next 5 years?
I hope that our why, when we look into our business as a brand or a retailer, is not just a linear model. I hope that we can say that, okay, it's more profitable for us to actually gain for the full life cycle of a product, and also always have the end of life perspective, and be able to count already in the budget on how many times could we actually sell this product, and that we have the basis for making this possible. That would be perfect.
Now the expectations are really high on you, Linda. You wanted to really wrap this up.
Yeah, but my answer could be so many, but because I have these perfect solutions beside me, I think that today we are looking into producing clothes. It takes a long time, and the lifetime is pretty short. So to be data-driven, have that feedback loop and quick and meet up players like Shein and those, it's hard. But if we add the second-hand market, like Arkivet is doing, but for themselves, if every brand can plan their assortment with the long-term producing clothes, but also the short-term that's already out there. It has been produced, maybe it's owned, but with DPP, we can ask for it back because we can see it's not being used. So I really would love you guys to come together and see how we can produce that engine that can enable retail brands to plan their assortment quicker with both produced and secondhand. That would be amazing.
A call for more collaboration. Daniel de Benedetto, Amanda Thorén, and Linda Pimmeshofer, thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
Thank you.
Thank you.